Hello and welcome to Bricks LA Builder Spotlight. I'm Aileen and I'm here with Gwyneth Kozbial. Hi, Gwyneth.
Hi, Eileen.
Thanks for taking time to talk some shop mocks with us.
Thanks for having me.
So you are a pretty prolific builder that you've been building a lot of amazing things in the last few years. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the AFOL community and the adult Lego community and maybe how you found this whole building thing as an adult?
I got into Lego as an adult. I didn't have Lego when I was a kid, really. When my kids got into Lego, they got really into Lego, and I saw the AFOL documentary, and I realized, oh, that's something I can do too. And I remember I went to a couple events. I went to Bricks LA and the other one before I got into it. I saw people there and I was like, oh, that's the guy from the video that we saw. I was kind of starstruck a little bit. But then I don't remember how I found out that there were lug meetings. Eventually, I think I lurked for a while, and then eventually I went to a meeting, and it's just such a warm, welcoming, embracing community that I had a lot of fun and wanted to
Oh,
get.
I'm so happy to hear. Well, you're in my local lug, so I'm happy to hear that. In case some people are watching who may not know what a lug is, that is a Lego user group, and there's actually hundreds, probably I don't know if there's thousands, probably hundreds around the world. So we're part of Legola, which is the Lego user group of Los Angeles, and hence why we go to Bricks LA. And it's a great time to hang out with other builders and meet other people. And I'm really glad that you found the community and that you found it so welcoming. And can you tell us a little bit about how you started the actual building? Like, do you remember what your first creation was? Like, what was your first thing that you built that you were like, oh my gosh, I made this thing?
When I first started building, my kids really wanted like a city with all the modular houses, and I didn't have the money for all the modular houses, but I had these big tubs full of bricks. So I found where you could get the instructions online, and I would just try to approximate with the bricks I had. So I had like, a yellow town hall and a red green grocer made with, all the fire trucks from the years that went into that bucket. So I started learning techniques from that. I would build the houses and I'd leave them empty because my daughter liked to build the furniture and the scenes inside. So I would build empty houses and my kids would populate the city. And then when I found out more what AFOLs could do, I remember the first thing I built was the set to Hamilton, the musical. We
Awesome.
were all really into that, and I hadn't even seen a video at that point. So what I built didn't have the circular stage turning, not like I could have. I don't know if I could do that now, but I had seen a picture with the lighting rig, and it was really fascinating lighting rig. So I built a stage and the minifigures and try. I had to make a crown for King George, and it was a wheel with
George.
circles on it on his head. So that was the first thing I made by myself.
That's very clever. Really great idea and tip for other people's learning to build with techniques from instructions online. You don't have to necessarily go buy hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of sets to learn these techniques.
All the instructions are there online. I mean, you don't have all the pieces in the collection, but it was just kind of, oh, it needs this piece. This is almost that.
Oh, see, that's where you get creative, though.
Which
That's where you
probably
come up with
informs
your
my
own
building.
style. That's
Yeah,
very
it
cool.
probably informs my building now.
I love how that also became a family activity where you would maybe build the house and then, your daughter could build the inside. That's a really great way to share the experience.
That
Very
was
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Very cool. So you started out with kind of building things that you liked and building things that, you started out with building things for your kids and then building things that you liked. What are some of your more recent uh, things that you've built? Because I know something very popular that you've built and got a lot of attention.
Well, that's something I like too. That's one of the challenges is when you build it, it is very frustrating because you feel that you're doing it wrong. You feel someone else could be doing it better. So what I wanted to do something bigger, but I needed something that would keep my attention and keep me going through those times when I just like, oh, it's awful. It's never going to get better. And I love the Beatles. So at first I wanted to do, I did Revolver, the cover to Revolver, because it's this intricate line drawing. And I thought, it's impossible. I want to do something that I think is impossible. So I built that and I took it to Bricks LA, and it was just one. it sat in a corner. Nobody really noticed it, I think. And then I said, well, you know, if nobody noticed one, I'm going to do all 13 of them so they really don't notice it. So I built all the album covers, and because it's the Beatles, you know, I build at home, and I don't necessarily share things with people. I'm a little intimidated. It's like, I'll show you when it's done and you'll tell me if you like it or not. But so, you know, I just had these stacks at home. I just worked on it until I showed it, and then it was huge and people did notice it.
And it's amazing. I mean, just seeing all those covers, album covers together, what a great idea to use, I mean, those are technically the same size as the album
they're all
cover?
the same. They're all the same base. So sometimes I put like there was one stud extra. Yeah, but
Right.
they're all
We'll,
one.
we'll forgive you for that one.
And I hadn't built a mosaic before either, so I wanted to try different styles of mosaics, and then when I was doing it, I was trying to invoke the style of the album and use a different technique that made you feel like the more psychedelic ones. I try to use like a more psychedelic technique with like, dismembered minifigures and things like that. But I just really had to try to find a way to push myself through, even when I wanted to stop.
Well, that was actually, you already answered my next question, was going to be, how did you decide on what style to build in? And I love that you were challenging yourself to build something you hadn't built before, but it sounds like you weren't just challenging yourself to build mosaic. Because I mean, I've seen them in person. They're beautiful and they're amazing, but each one is so different. The styles are so different, even though they're all considered mosaic. There's different depths and so many different pieces and techniques being used. It's 13 different mocks, but it becomes one big, display together, which is pretty amazing. And I know you've gotten some more attention for those, not just online, but maybe something that's happening next year.
Oh yeah, it was supposed to happen last year. I was going to go to the Masterpiece Gallery in Billund. That's really like the biggest honor you can get.
That's so exciting.
It is really exciting.
Well, I hope that happens next year. I'm sure it will happen at some point, whenever it does happen. So the Masterpiece Gallery it's at the Lego House, everyone, in Billund, which if you haven't been, if you have any chance in the future to go to Billund, I highly recommend stopping by the Lego House for the day. And it really does take a full day to go through and see everything. And there's so much to see on top of soon Gwyneth's beautiful work. There's so much interactivity and so many cool things to see, so much inspiration to draw. Speaking of inspiration, I know you were just talking about, you picked, so for that project, you picked something that you just said you want to stick with, you're not going to get tired.
I won't give up on the Beatles.
I love that. I love that.
But then there's a lot of pressure now because like I want to constantly do better than I've done in the past, but I can't top the Beatles. So it's like, what am I going to do now?
You can't think of it as topping the Beatles. No, I don't know what would top the Beatles. So you got to just think of moving on to the next project. It can just be a lateral move. That's okay. So I was going to ask, aside from just choosing something that you love, like the Beatles, you've built many other things. I see some creations behind you there. What other kind of things give you inspiration? What makes you think that's a thing I want to build, or that's inspiring me to build this other thing? What sparks that? Do you ever think about what sparks that idea?
Well, a lot of times it's pop culture things, but it has to be something that wasn't done before. I built a Kubo mock, Kubo and the Two Strings.
Gorgeous Kubo mock.
Thank you. Since there have been other ones and they are very gorgeous. And if they had been done before, I would have just said, no, I'm not going to do it. Because I feel like it's, a little imposter syndrome thing. Like I feel if somebody else could do it better, but if I can do it first,
then it's the best.
Then it's the best, at least for one day.
I think a lot of builders, a lot of Lego builders feel the same way. I know I certainly have had a few ideas. I'm like, oh, this would be really fun to build. And of course I look it up online and 10 other people already built it. And I'm like,
And I know it's also an unfair thing because I've seen people do the same object and it's still in different styles. There still is enough room for everybody. And I know it's an unfair thing to put on me, but I built the Shera doll. My son and I love Shera, and he loved how when she transforms, her hair goes whoosh. And so I wanted to catch that whoosh, and I almost gave up on that. And I posted a picture of it online, and then the Shera fan page found it, and I was about to take it apart and they put the picture up. I was like, oh, I guess I should probably finish it.
That's so
Um,
cool.
yeah. So, but I was going to say something. I lost my train
Uh,
of thought.
well, speaking of the Shera model that you built, the hair was actually the thing. I mean, the whole model is beautiful, but the hair was the thing I was actually going to ask you about was how on earth did you ever figure out how to do that? Like, you know,
It's a lot of clicking.
flowing.
Oh, this is where I was going to go with that. There's a builder in Finland, and I can't pronounce his name properly, but he builds these wonderful figurative models. And I want to build something like that, but I know I can never build like him. So the things that are done before, I purposely don't want to copy them. So it would be smarter if I just tried to copy people's styles and change it a little bit. But I was like, no, I can't do anything like what he's done before. So I want to do something different. And then it doesn't look like his, which look amazing. So, but that's kind of the point.
Well, if you haven't seen your own stuff, it looks amazing. Are you kidding me? Other people
But
are
her hair
like,
is just like a configuration of hinges, and I tend to work with the pieces that I have on hand.
Mhm.
So those must have been in a pick a brick wall at some point, or I got it through a draft. I don't like to have to order off of Bricklink, because if I do, I need one thing, and what else does that store have? And all of a sudden I'm spending $50 for, one thing.
It's very easy to fall down that hole.
So I admire
Lego
the
hole.
builders who design digitally and they know exactly what they need to build, and order it. But that's just not how I can work. If I have to buy one thing, I'm going to buy 500 things, and that's going to be a problem. So
So
that's how I limit myself.
that's very interesting. So you don't pre-plan your mocks in terms of, making a digital model first. Do you pre-plan in terms of maybe building in a different color and then finding the pieces you need? Or do you look around at the pieces you have and take inspiration from that? Like maybe you find another piece and you're like, oh, that one would be great for Shera hair. Or do you kind of have it planned out in your head before and you think, okay, I need to go find these 10 pieces in my collection and use those?
What usually happens is I have an idea of how I want it to go together, and then I try to put the pieces together and they don't fit the way that I want to, so I have to think of something different.
That's fair. That's completely fair. Do you find yourself rebuilding things a lot? Do you go through many iterations, or is it kind of, you just work on little pieces at a time and it comes together?
I probably do. Kubo, I remember, but that was probably only really like the second. Like I did Hamilton was my first thing, and I took that to Bricks LA the first time I went, and Kubo was the second time. And Kubo, I started with his head, and at first it was just a flat head, and I was like, no, that was taken apart and built many times because I was just starting building really.
Mhm.
So I think I do that less as time goes on, also because I kind of get angry that I've wasted a lot of time. It really helps. It helps knowing other AFOLs, because whenever one of my friends will say, oh my gosh, I just spent 3 hours trying to figure out how to do this thing, I'm like, thank you for telling me that, because I feel like only me, like I feel like you just know it magically. So yeah, I get angry if I have to waste too much time. I'm kind of impatient like that. So
I completely hear you on that.
I do take it apart. Yeah.
Yeah, if I have to take something apart after I've built it, I'm like, I'm moving on to the next project. But it's great that's one of the great things about interacting with other, adult fans of Lego and other builders is you learn, oh, I'm not the only one who runs into these problems. And other people are taking hours and hours rebuilding, not Kubo, but, whatever they're working on and whatever they're building. So again, another great thing about coming to conventions and things like that. So do you find that you build better? Maybe not better, that's not the right word. Do you find that you like building more for yourself on no timeline, or do you like having it like, oh, I'm building for this event or this reason, and there's like a deadline or like a theme or something, like mostly a deadline?
I mostly only build on my own timeline, because I think if I have something I'm working on and there is something coming up, if I don't get it done by then it'll just wait till the next one. I'll just wait till next year. I don't, like I haven't applied to like Lego's ideas because I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I could probably come up with something, later. And like, oh, the deadline's in 2 weeks. Nah, never mind.
That's so relaxed of you. I love that. No, that's wonderful. So you take your time to really finish your mocks. You don't necessarily build for an event or for a deadline, whether it's yourself or an event.
No, and even when I was building the Beatles ones, people asked, how long did it take you to build the cover? I'm like, well, about a week. But I mean, it could be a pretty intensive week where that's all I'm doing. The house falls apart. I don't do anything else. But then it would also, I would have it sit on the side of the room and just watch it every time I walk by. I'm like, are you done? Okay. And after a while, I like, yeah, that's done, or I would think of what wasn't done and I'd go back and fix it. So, I can think I'm done, but I'm not quite done.
Do you feel like they're done now? I mean, personally, as an onlooker, as an observer to your beautiful mocks, I think they're done. Like I'm like, holy cow, those are amazing. However, I know many artists, whether it's in Lego or paint or whatever your medium is, you never feel like a piece of work is finished. So do you feel like, when you're done with your project, you're like, this is done. Thank you.
For the most part, once I've shown it, it's done. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Unless, I mean, if I show it and somebody says it looked much better if you fixed that, if someone gave me a suggestion like that and I agreed with it and I could do that, then yeah, I would go back and change it. It's not like I'm not open to criticism.
Oh no, of course, not at all. I just know some people prefer to continually add on or, keep tweaking and changing things on some of their mocks. It's just two different building styles, Yeah. It's interesting. So I have to ask, it's a big question. Do you sort by color or type of piece?
Type of piece. I remember the first time because I had these giant bins of Lego that I got at yard sales from the time I found out I was pregnant till we brought them back out years later. And I had all these bins. And the first thing I thought was by color. And then I tried to build something and I'm like, do I have a 1x1 red brick? I don't know. I have a lot of red stuff, but is there a 1x1 red brick in there? And I couldn't find it. And then, yeah, I learned that lesson pretty fast. And I have a lot of bricks. So
it's a weird thing. It kind of depends on your building style, which way you end up sorting. And I know some people kind of sort both ways, which if you have the room to do that, that's great. It's, it's a personal preference. And I love knowing what other people, I think everybody loves knowing how other people sort their collection and access their Lego. Cause at some point, after you bought a few sets, you start thinking, I need to organize this somehow.
Yeah. It's a lot of time goes into organizing and since I don't sort, I don't have I have a couple of those, smaller detail boxes, but that also takes a lot of time. It's a kind of an exercise. It's a lot of brain power goes into remembering what you own. When you're like, when I start something, I'm like, okay, what colors do I have? Could I make it? Do I have to order something? Do I have to look for something? You have to kind of remember what has been in the pick a brick wall lately, or when I'm at
catalog all the time.
Yeah. But I'm a big fan, or I was a big fan of the pick a brick wall. And, I'd just be filling cups and the workers be like, oh, what project are you working in? I'm like, what are you going to use that in? I have no idea. But in 3 years, when I want to build something, I need it, I'm going to be really happy I bought it now.
That's awesome. So do you have a dream build? Like I really want to build this thing. Maybe you don't have enough brick yet, or maybe it would be really expensive to get all the bricks to build whatever this thing is. Maybe some big project or even something small.
Not anything in particular. I dream of building something with a lot of motion, like something really spectacular that moves, like Flynn and Richard's Snake Queen.
Oh,
that they did,
amazing.
like something like that,
Well,
I really want to learn a lot about motion and stuff, and that's something a skill I don't have yet. So that's the thing I've wanted to be working on.
It's the next thing to pick up. That's awesome. So we have even more amazing things to look forward to you from in the future.
I hope so.
From you in the future. That's it. Get those words in the right way. So do you have any advice for aspiring builders, especially adult builders, maybe people who don't know that they can get back into building Lego or get into it for the first time?
to just go in and try. And I don't know, to remind if people are worried about going in, because it is intimidating to go into community where, you know, some of these builders have been building their whole lives, or, you know, like they've got 40 years of experience on me, you know, you're never going to catch up with that, but kind of you can, maybe if you try. But it's good to know that they're not exclusionary. Like even the best builders have an open heart, and you know, there's, you know, when I went first, I couldn't build anything, and nobody like told me I was crap. I was very, very open armed, and you know, they gave me suggestions for how I could make things better. But you know, just to know that, you know, everyone's on your side.
Yeah, I found the adult Lego community to be extremely accepting, no matter what you're in, if what your building style, what your building level, you know, come on in, hang out with us, learn about it. I'm so glad that you've had a good experience yourself with that. So before we end here, would you like to say, do you have any, like an online gallery or a web page or anything where people could maybe follow you, or a social media account?
I have Instagram. It hasn't been a lot put on there lately because, you know,
That's
quarantine.
okay.
But it's White Goat Works. My last name, Kozbial, means white goat, and then works like in the creative output. So White Goat Works.
Fantastic. We will put that as a note in the video here. And if you want to go follow Gwyneth and her amazing builds, you should definitely check that out. And in the future, when we are hanging out in person again, hopefully you will still be coming to Bricks LA and possibly showing at other conventions and shows. And again, hopefully at the Lego House in Belland.
Yes, hope so.
Very cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about your awesome builds and showing us some of your mocks and sharing a little bit of the process and insight and how you've gotten to where you are. And I hope nothing but bigger and better things even in the future. I don't know how, again, I don't know what's better than the Beatles, but you'll figure it out.
Thank you.